Good morning or afternoon, depending on where you're at here in the world, really. Chris Worden, Andy Jones-Wilkins, and we're also joined by, on the couch here, Bryce Brooks. And we're here to talk about something that's brand new to the Aravaipa racing portfolio, and that is the Sonoran Desert Cup. There's a lot to unpack here, and we'll kind of go over that here in this little preview show. First of all, Bryce, thanks for joining us. And tell us about the genesis of the Sonoran Desert Cup.
Yeah. Good morning, Chris. Good morning, AJW.
Good morning, Bryce.
Yeah. So I guess in a general overview, we want to showcase some of the sub ultra distances within the dirt series. So I guess the dirt series, if we're taking a step back, tours the Maricopa County regional parks. So there's 7 events spread across 6 different parks that go on throughout the winter, which is like ideal running season here in Phoenix.
Beautiful.
And so we want to make a series it's competitive, but also accessible. So mid distance is going to be anywhere from low 20K to, I think there's one that's a 40K, but that's going to be the longest distance.
Mm-hmm.
And so it would be split into 2 seasons. So you have the fall season, which is coming up pretty quick, starting in October with Cave Creek Thriller, and then Pass Mountain and McDowell Mountain Frenzy. And then Frenzy would be the last race in that series. And then after that would be, it goes SanTan Scramble, Coldwater Rumble, Elephant Mountain, and Mesquite. And then after all that, we're going to have the championship race at Damn Good Runs in April. So I guess that's a real general overview. But again, targeting these sub-ultra distances. And I think we're going to be doing some really cool things with it, like on the content side, bringing the community in for involvement. Yeah.
Dude, that's fantastic. And I love the idea. The winners, when all's said and done, the winners will be the Cactus King and Queen.
Yeah.
It's just playing up the Sonoran Desert Cup thing really well. And that Damn Good Championship Run is just a beautiful course out there at Lake Pleasant. So it'll be a wonderful way to sort of cap off this incredible, winter of running.
Absolutely. And one of the things I want to do today as we discuss this is touch upon each of the courses, at least in a very brief detail, because between the 3 of us, we've run all of the courses.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Which actually is kind of a funny thing, because I've run most of them, you've run one of them, and you've run at least one of them.
I've run most of them, yeah.
We cover all of them, and we'll get to like which ones are our favorites.
Yep.
Also, I really want to stress to the audience that this is important because it showcases so much of what we have here in the Valley. It is a local race series at heart, but I've met people at these events in years past that have come here to travel. Everybody comes for Heavily 100. Everyone comes for Cocodona. But the local DRT race series is one that still brings people in. They're more fiscally reserved, I guess you could say, would be, a way to put it. And also, let's be honest, 100 miles, 250 miles wrecks you.
Right.
It can take a toll on your body. You can come from anywhere and run a 20K, run a 30K, and still have enough time to enjoy the rest of, as you mentioned, the beautiful fall, winter, and spring seasons here in the Sonoran Desert.
And the 2 that you mentioned, Javelina and Cocodona, so those are kind of on the tail end or going into the winter season. So they're going to be a little bit warmer than majority of all the races in this series. I mean, the conditions are pretty ideal. I mean, like 40-degree starts, maybe 60-degree highs. Like it's glorious. And we've been waiting for the weather to break so desperately.
It's going to happen. It's got to happen.
You think. Folks, if you do have questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. We've got Bryce Brooks here with myself and Andy Jones-Wilkins, and we are going to kind of preview what we expect and what we're looking forward to as the series goes. As Bryce mentioned, this race consists of 7 races within the series, and actually it's almost 2 series within a series as well. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so it's split up into the fall and the spring, like I said. So you have 3 races in the spring. You have 4 in the. I'm sorry, I got that
other way around. Yeah. 3 in the fall,
3 in the fall, 4 in the spring. So in order to qualify to race in the Damn Good Run Championship, you have to participate in at least 2 races in a single series. So that would be either 2 in the fall or 2 in the spring. You can race more, but only your 2 highest races are going to score you. And then I believe it's the top 10 from both the fall and the spring will get admission into Damn Good.
And race full on head to head.
Head to head.
Yeah,
Exactly.
So if you're thinking, if you're thinking of signing up for this, the first race is a little more than a month from now, on October 12th.
Yep.
And then it's pretty much one a month, with the exception of 2 in January.
Yep.
Straight through. And so if you have your eyes on it, you'll want to choose 2 of the 3 in the fall, and then 2 of the 4 in the spring.
Yeah, I think also one of the cool things about this series is that it's accessible in terms of a distance perspective.
Yeah.
It's not only sub ultra, it's sub marathon.
Right.
So was that by design, Bryce, when you and the team were helping to put this all together?
Yeah. I mean, we talked about balancing the competitiveness. So I mean, this is something. It's not like you're doing a 50K every month. So you can knock some of these out back to back without really taxing your body too much. And it also, I mean, these are some of the highlights of these events. Like if you want to talk about Pass Mountain, it's just a single glorious loop around Pass Mountain. You don't have to double up
Beautiful
anywhere.
up top.
Like these events are like standalone. They're really awesome. The first one, so Cave Creek Thriller, point to point on the Maricopa Trail, going from Anthem to Cave Creek Park. You just get to traverse a lot of like these. Maybe I don't know if it would be underrated, because I know a lot of people love the Maricopa Loop Trail, but maybe less traversed trails that maybe you normally wouldn't run on anyway.
I think that's actually something, and that's one of the notes that I made as we were going to start to talk about this series. Cave Creek Thriller coming up in October, the kickoff race of the series, the 24K, is a point-to-point sub-ultra trail run.
Right.
I can't think of very many chances where you get that opportunity to run a point-to-point in a sub-ultra trail race.
Yep.
So you start you meet at Cave Creek Regional Park. You get bused over to Anthem, Arizona, which is about 10 miles to the west, and then you, as you mentioned, traverse the Maricopa Trail back into Cave Creek Regional Park, and then do one of my favorite stretches of trail, the Gojon Loop.
Oh yeah,
absolutely wonderful. I think that race is extremely runnable and a lot of fun, and you do have one big climb, and it's right near the end.
Right. It's an interesting race profile because it is point to point. The Maricopa Trail is pretty flat. So the first half of the race is going to be flat and gradual, and then you're in the mountains of Cave Creek Park. So it's almost like 2 distinct races in one.
What's the strategy that, say, a participant who's eyeing this series, do you guys think, like, let's just take the fall season, sign up for all 3 and get your 2 best times? Or choose the 2 you think would be best? It's kind of that in a sort of race within a race. That'd be an interesting sort of question. You guys, let's dive into the courses. So you just discussed the Cave Creek, right?
Yep.
A little bit easy in the first half. Second half gets kind of gnarly. How about the Pass Mountain, the pure loop of Pass Mountain? What's that course like?
Yeah. Maybe Jordan, I don't know. Are we able to pull this up on the screen here so we can kind of float through it as we talk about it? So if we scroll down a little bit. So right now we're on the Sonoran Cup website,
which you can access via Aravaipa, and then just search Sonoran within the website. That's
it'll be in the event calendar in like an hour after this goes out.
Perfect.
Pinned in the description of this video here. If we scroll down a little bit more,
there you see them.
We're gonna have little Strava flyover maps of each of the distances. So these are all the specific Sonoran Desert Cup races. So if we hit the play button on the Pass Mountain Strava link, it's on like the left side a little. There we go. So it's going to give us a little bit of a flyover of the course here. It's a pretty cool feature that Strava has now.
That is really neat.
So Pass Mountain 25K, the beginning is very flat, super runnable,
super fast.
Yeah, look at that. You can see it's almost like a Tour de France stage where they're on the flat valley roads for 3/4 of it, and then whammo.
Right.
Well, it starts out on the 10K course of the Pass Mountain Loop, which is extremely flat, extremely fast. But then, halfway through, all of a sudden, everything changes.
Right. I said Cave Creek was almost like 2 races in one, but that's more of a gradual change. This is a very drastic change. And so I'll call it out. Once you get to a point on the course, it goes from, like you said, flat and fast to extremely technical and vertical.
Yeah, the backside of the Pass Mountain climb is rough.
So right here, you're passing that little peak right there is Cat Peak, and then you take a right, and then it gets real. And so now
Look at that.
this is the actual pass mountain, also known as Scarface by some of the locals. If you're looking at it from a distance, there's a big escarpment on it. And so the backside's fun and flowy, and then it's just a big descent back to the finish line. And 25K, so like you said, it's like a little...
It hurts for a couple hours.
Right. It's not short, but it's also not a 50K.
Yeah, and once you get up to the top of Pass Mountain, the views are absolutely fantastic. You can soak that in. One thing I do remember from the time I ran the 25K, when I got up to the top there, it's fully exposed too, with one exception. When you don't actually summit Pass Mountain, but you get real close, and there's kind of like an overhang, and I saw maybe, I don't know, there were probably about 20 people hanging out, and half of them had bibs on.
Right.
The other half were hikers. But there were people that were just, they had underestimated because they had run maybe the other sections of the Pass Mountain, the Usery Park,
Right.
and thought that the rest of it was that way. Well, with the logistics of this course, it's one of the trickier races in the Cup because your last aid station is fairly early in the race. So you've got to actually go up and down Pass Mountain.
Yeah, it looks like right there, it's about at the halfway point. You probably have about 12K without aid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not it's, as Bryce said, it's not just the climb. It's also a very technical climb on the backside. Like if you're not careful, that's an ankle buster right
for
there.
sure. It's chunky.
Yeah.
So then, of course, we've got these two race within a races, right? As Bryce said, Cave Creek Thriller and Pass Mountain are almost like they have you have the prologue, and then these killer, you get into the Cave Creek Park with the mountains, and of course you get into Pass Mountain.
Yep.
McDowell Mountain Frenzy. We all love our McDowell Mountains. Let's get that one, Jordan, because that's a little bit of a spaghetti run.
Can we scroll up just a smidge? No, or scroll down rather.
So
yeah,
this is out for new folks. This is in the same park as the Javelina 100 a couple of months later. A local favorite, first weekend in December, almost always beautiful weather. Can be chilly.
And this one is more rolling than the previous two races. There's some up and down, and there's a big hill at the end, but for the most part, this is the runner's race. Like when you think of Sonoran Desert Running, this is probably the perfect example of it.
Right.
It's actually two loops, but it's two distinctly different loops of trails in the McDowell Mountain Park.
Yep. A lot of this is on what's called the competitive loop. So this is a popular mountain biking trails. So really packed down, like crushed granite, and then it's just relentless up and down. Like this was also a Ragnar race. So like in 2018, this is like one of the first loops I've ever did in like an actual trail race.
Yeah.
And then I looked at the profile, no problem, and then blew up on it just because it's relentless.
Yeah.
Yeah, for those of you who think McDowell Mountain Park and think of the Javelina course, or like the core of that, which is the Pemberton Loop, which does have some rollers in the middle. This is a lot more touring. I mean, you hit some sections of the smooth flowy, as you're saying, but it's a lot more just up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, not very technical. You can run it, like you said, but kind of the greatest hits of McDowell.
And there are two features about this course / race and event in general that I'm really excited about. First is the fact that when you finish, you can actually look back and see runners coming from about a mile away.
Right.
Like you can actually kind of play the guessing game based on outfits, gait, whatever, like trying to figure out who it is coming down. There's a left to right slope downhill, and then you can kind of see them every so often popping out of a riverbed, and that's a lot of fun. The other thing is that that race takes place on a very big day in the ultra running community.
It sure does.
And it is the day of the Western States and Hard Rock Lotteries. And we last year had a big screen televising it. And one of the coolest things about that race is that when a runner is out on the course running and they come in, and sometimes their phones have been going off for the last hour because they got picked for Western States or Hard Rock. Others of them like totally dial out, have no clue. And I've seen reactions for both. Like I've seen so much emotion. I mean, to shout out a couple of local runners, Angela Feldman and Noel Kingston, who both run Western States in the last 2 years, found out about their getting in, and they were, over the moon. Then you take somebody like Nick Curry, who's like, okay, well, it's another year of running. So you get to see these reactions, and also, hanging out in the beer garden and watching the lottery, like McDowell Mountain Frenzy. If you're not able to make it out for like a Javelina or a Cocodona, it's a good way to capture the spirit of our Arizona Sonoran Desert trail running community in a morning and afternoon.
Right.
Speaking of capturing the moment and the visual, we have gotten confirmation too that while we're not going to live stream all 8 of these events, the first one in the series we will live stream is McDowell Mountain Frenzy.
That
which will
makes
be a
sense.
beautiful live stream.
Yeah, it's actually, the logistics for that are probably actually pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
And I know that we've got a good relationship with the park. Looking forward to, some drone shots of some areas that, that are different than people see when they tune into Javelina.
Right.
So that'll be a lot of fun. And that actually stages out of the competitive lot, which is where a lot of people will be parking, camping, and sleeping in about 6 weeks.
Right.
So.
Exactly. So transition through the holidays.
Yep.
There's
Take a break.
That first weekend in December, Lottery Day, McDowell Mountain Frenzy. We transition through the holidays, and then it comes in quick and with 2 races in January.
Yeah, there's a stretch there in January into February where you can go all in on 3 races or pick your poison, but you've got 3 choices within about 5 weeks. I believe.
Look at that! You are quite right, Chris. With SanTan 2 weeks later, Coldwater 2 weeks later,
Elephant Mountain.
which Elephant Mountain.
Yeah.
So let's talk about those.
So SanTan Scramble.
Oh yeah.
I actually ran my first ultra there.
Okay.
And the experience at SanTan Scramble can be summed up in one word, and that's gold mine.
Yeah.
Is that spike in the middle of it?
Yes, that is the spike in the middle of it.
Profile?
It is an absolutely brutal climb. It's only about a quarter of a mile long, but it's super steep. It's super technical. You're dealing with a lot of hikers that are out there on their usual thing. We are visitors in their neck of the woods.
Yep.
So it's just kind of a logistical hiccup that you have to handle. And I've done gold mine. You've done gold mine. Have you done gold mine before?
No, I've not.
Oh boy.
Might have to jump into that this year.
I've actually actively thrown up while going up Gold Mine.
I've had my legs lock while heading down gold mine,
Yeah.
like where I actually was standing still because I couldn't move them.
Yeah.
It is an absolutely brutal climb, but the rest of the course is
Oh yeah.
extremely fast.
Yep.
Mhm.
It's not as technical as a lot of other stuff. It's actually, again, 2 loops, but like McDowell, 2 entirely different loops of the park. There's a 9K loop and a 17K loop.
Yep.
And the 17K loop is what includes gold mine. And I think that it's actually probably
Right there.
That's cool. Yeah.
it is a very stout point in that race, and it'll mess with you a little bit. Some people will look at it as a welcome hiking break. I didn't look at it as such,
Yep.
and thank goodness there's an aid station right before it.
Oh,
So
yeah.
this is out Southeast Valley, right down by Queen Creek.
SanTan Regional Park, yes.
Right on. Yeah.
It's
Looks
about
beautiful.
45 minutes from the airport, give or
Okay.
take, with
Yeah.
good traffic. So.
Yep.
Next up after that is a race that this run will be part of what is a huge event out here in the desert, and that's Coldwater Rumble out at Estrella Mountain out in the West Valley. Coldwater Rumble has distances ranging from, is it still a 4-miler at the base, or is it a 4 or 5-miler?
I want to say 5-miler maybe.
And all the way up to 100-miler.
Correct.
And can you talk about what the 40? So this is one I have no familiarity with because the course was changed a few years ago. I've run the 20K, the 20-miler, the 50K that used to be out there, but they've changed it. Can you kind of go into what's going on there?
Yeah. So this is actually a section of, they do loops on this in the 100K. I want to say 60K, 100K, 100 mile is going to do loops of this. So it's not as smooth as the footing is on like SanTan or McDowell. There is going to be more rocks in the path, but there are some more sustained flat areas, and maybe that was just how I interpreted it. I got to pace my buddy Matt Halverson out there in the 100K last year. So like here, there's no huge climb that I remember. There's no crux of the course like Gold Mine at SanTan.
Yeah.
Lots of ups and downs. It's a longer route. So longest in the entire series is going to be this 40K here.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say there's necessarily a really, really difficult point like Gold Mine.
Yeah, this was the first bib I pinned on since my hip replacement surgeries this past January. running the exact 40K. By the way, we should note the 100-miler in recent years has been drawing, people who want to get out of the cold and run a good 100 in the middle of winter. Last year we had Carl Meltzer here and Jeff Browning and Devin Yanko.
Yeah.
But this, I would agree with you on the 40K. What I felt was that you felt like you should be able to go faster than you were. It was just a grindy course.
Yeah.
If you know the Estrellas, it's got some sandy washes. It's got some just a little bit kind of just rocky, soft. You just feel, and lots of expanses where you can see runners a mile or a mile and a half ahead. It just, you feel like you should be able to go faster than you do. And it's just a grind of a course. I think the way the series plays out, though, it being a 40K, one of the strategies might be, if you're more of a long distance person, this is a race where you could actually stack up some points, likewise with the next one, Elephant Mountain at 35K. With everything else in that sort of 25 to 30 range, this one will test the sort of the extent of the sort of short distance sub ultra person with a potential ultra person who wants to dabble in sub ultra.
You briefly mentioned something, and this is on a personal level. Coldwater is not my favorite because I am not very good at running in sandy washes.
Sure.
Yeah.
And that's something that you do have to do at Coldwater is you will be running in some very sandy areas on the backside of the Estrellas. And some people take to it like a fish to water. Other people take it like a fish to land. And I'm the latter in that course. So I still go out to Coldwater every year and I'll run something, usually shorter and a little bit more firm of foot. But Coldwater Rumble 40K is going to be a different perspective for those running this event, as it is the longest in the series.
It's also really fun with all the other distances because you see everybody. You see
There's tons of people
milers,
out there.
You see the 4-milers. You see, it's really, and it's that mid-January. It's, it's nice. It can be chilly. I mean, it's just it's a wonderful kind of, it's a beautiful start-finish area, plenty of parking, hanging out. It's a good spot.
The way it worked with the redesign made it a bit like Javelina, where you have this central headquarters. And so after every loop of the longer distances, well, this is just a one loop, you go through the camp. So you go through everybody's little pop-up aid stations, and then before winding back through the finish line.
Yeah, it's even set up where you kind of do that horseshoe just like you do at Javelina. It's really cool.
Yeah, I think that, that's going to be something that we're going to have to watch in the years to come, because if Coldwater Rumble gains more momentum, in particular the 100-miler and now the 40K, it's already a huge event. There's already over 500 runners there each year. I mean, who's to say that it's, anywhere close to, capacity or where it's going to end up. So, But from there, we actually return to a park that we've been at earlier in the series, but we take on some different trails, and that's through the Elephant Mountain 35K. The Elephant Mountain 35K heads back to Cave Creek Regional Park, but it takes a different trail system. It actually incorporates a loop as well as an out and back out to an area called Spur Cross Ranch. And I've only run the 35K once, and it was a long time ago. I believe it was in about 2014, 2015. It was one of my first Aravaipa running event. So about 10 years ago. Bryce, can you talk about what it's like to run out from Cave Creek to Spur Cross Ranch?
Yeah. So, it starts out, like you mentioned before, Go John, punchy climb.
Love it.
So right out of the gate, you're going up. Like you said, this is the only out and back in the whole series. So unique in that way. There are some big climbs, and they're basically evenly spread out. The way I remember running this, it feels like the climbs are pretty spread out throughout the entire race. I mean, you have to go back up every single one. So, but you make it all the way out to the Spur Cross aid station. So that's that little aid station you see in the middle of the elevation profile there. And then you turn right around and head right back up. And so it's cool that you'll be able to see other distances coming through on your way back as you pass them. And the trail, in my experience, was wide enough. There was enough room where I didn't have issues where I was colliding with other runners or anything like that. So, my experience was pretty.
It is also just looking at your stats, Bryce. It is the second most vertical per mile. You hit 2450 in 21 miles. Only Mesquite, the next one we're going to talk about, has more. But you can see it. It's This would be a climber's course. As you said, if McDowell Mountain Frenzy is kind of the runner's course, then Elephant Mountain is the climber's course.
Well, I'm gonna mildly disagree with you there, talking about our next course, because this one is a doozy. So it's not the longest course in the series, but in my opinion, it's the most daunting. And we'll talk about why. And that is the Mesquite Canyon 30K that'll be taking place in March. Mesquite Canyon is a big event. It brings in some big names. I mean, you'll see it's not uncommon to see a Jeff Browning or a Jim Walmsley out there. We've seen people come out here. The 50 miler is a huge draw, and the 30K is part of that. And that can be summed up, as I mentioned, one word at SanTan Goldmine, 2 words at Mesquite Canyon:
Goat camp.
goat camp.
Yeah. That's
So
brutal.
yeah, goat camp is, and you can see the elevation profile. If we're able to move our heads or, move it up, yeah, you can take a look.
Yeah.
The first few miles of Mesquite Canyon lull you into a false sense of security. Not only is it like gently, gently flat, it's also like wonderful trail. Like, it is buttery smooth. It is wonderful. And then after that aid station, all heck breaks
Talking
loose.
about this aid station right here.
Yes.
Yep.
So what happens is you hit this aid station. Now, you've been running probably for about 7 or so miles, maybe, and you're feeling good, you're feeling comfortable, you're in your groove, and then they point you like in the direction of this trail that just starts to go up, and you start to head up. And not only is it uphill, but it's rugged. It is gnarly. It's hard. It's goat camp, and there are very few stretches of races here in the valley where you can experience something so gnarly in a sub-ultra distance. Like, it is, like, getting up goat camp is a huge accomplishment, and having done it once, I don't know if I'm going to go back because it is that hard. Compounded with the fact that this race takes place in March, and it is not unrealistic to find yourself touching triple digits.
Yeah, kind of the first hot day of the year is one of
Absolutely.
those deals. Does it still go through the creek bed too at the end, or does the 30K skip that?
Talking about the canyon,
Yeah,
Ford Canyon.
Yeah.
I don't.
where you're sometimes you got to go on like all fours to
I
get
don't
down
know
through the
that
creek.
I don't know that this course does hit that.
No,
Oh,
it
okay.
doesn't hit that. So actually what's fun about this course is that after you hit that final aid station, or actually not the final aid station, but the second aid station, the descent is actually really fast.
Yeah, it looks like a nice.
It
descent.
is.
Yeah.
It's actually, it's where I've taken my worst fall in trail running, but it's because I missed a literal like step.
Yep.
Mhm.
And it's very fast. It's very runnable if you've got the legs left after goat camp. But climbing up the goat camp climb is what can extinguish those hopes and dreams a lot of times for a lot of runners.
Yeah, this is one that intimidates me a little bit. This is the one where we see also the most carnage, I would say, is like most bloody knees coming back down, easy to catch a toe on the descents.
That's what I did. I
And
caught a toe
it-
and I caught it hard. So
Yep.
And as the final event in the spring series, like Frenzy, this is one that we are going to live stream.
Yep.
So we'll see some drone
we go.
footage of people bombing down that hill and cutting up their knees. So
Actually, the idea of getting video footage of that climb up Goat Camp is going to be fantastic. But once you're up to the top, it is gorgeous, and it's gently like it takes it a little bit easy on you. But the problem is that when people talk about Mesquite Canyon here locally and the 30K, they do like specifically mention Goat Camp. All the distances 30K and above hit Goat Camp, because there's also a 50K and a 50 miler. But that is so daunting that if you're running any of those distances, that's what you're going to talk about.
Yep.
all right, so we've done the 7, 3 in the fall, 4 in the spring, and then the grand finale, the Desert Cup Championship.
Yep.
Well, let's talk about that. The damn good run, relatively short, beautiful, out at Lake Pleasant, where Crown King Scramble starts just a few weeks before this run. This looks like a lollipop, or a modified lollipop.
Yep.
It's unusual though. This race has got a bit of a unique opportunity that most people don't get. Bryce, can you talk about that?
You talking about the dam?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So the Waddell Dam. So you'll see it's actually it's towards the beginning of the course here, and we'll call it out as you're kind of going across it. So this is, you start off on the same course as the 2 mile. This is skirting the shores of Lake Pleasant, and right here
You cruise across the dam.
which is usually not accessible
Yeah.
to runners.
It's a rare opportunity to get to run on that stretch.
And then after that, so this was all road, and then right here is where you hit the trail. You turn back around, and then you're going to be going in and out of drainage through here.
That descent right here is so much fun.
It's a lot of fun. It's fast. Spring colors. This is like some of the best like flowers you're going to see alongside the course of any of the races. You might hear some hee-haws out there.
Lots of donkeys out in the
Lots of
course.
donkeys.
Not just on the trail running the race, but also
Right.
like literally ambient donkeys.
Oh, yeah,
if there is
during-
such a thing.
During Crown King, which is right near, like you said, I was shooing them out of the road, like yelling at them. "Woo, woo."
I like the term ambient donkeys for a progressive rock band.
Exactly. And as the championship race, we will be live streaming this one as well. This is the one Sunday start in the series.
That's true.
Important to note, Sunday, April 6th. Everything else is a Saturday start.
And that whole and Damn Good Run is also kind of a celebratory race. For those unfamiliar, it actually started as kind of a thank you volunteers race back in the day. Like the first running, I believe, in order to be invited, you had to have volunteered like in the last calendar year for an Aravaipa event. And so the sense of community at this event is very evident in that. And also the fact that they use it as the award ceremony for the DRT series. So like if you have earned some sort of award in any of the series, not just the Sonoran Cup, but also like the Quail series, the Roadrunner series, the Eagle series, which are distance categorized. You get your accolades, your award, and your podium there. And one of the things that I'm going to kind of spin into with regards to the notion of qualifying for the Damn Good Run 26K is that it might sound daunting to finish in the top 10 of the series, either in the fall or in the spring. But the thing is that consistency counts. Getting out there and getting it done counts. I've finished in the top 10 of series here in Arizona. I've finished in the top 3. I literally, one of my first awards was not like for an individual race, but for a series, because I had basically accumulated the points through the series. Like, oh wow, you're third in the Roadrunner series for the fall and spring. Like, really? Because I never finished faster than 7th in any of the races. Well, yeah, but you finished 6th, 7th, 4th, 12th, whatever.
Right.
The points add up and accumulate. And so you don't necessarily have to be a burner to succeed and get into the finals here. It might help, but you don't have to.
Yeah, that's great. So let's shift a little bit too and talk a little bit about the media role. We've talked a little bit about the live stream. We're committed now to live stream 3 of the 8 events, the season finale in each. So Frenzy and Mesquite, as well as the championship race at Damn Good Run. But we're also going to do something pretty cool, I think, Chris, and that is that the team here at Aravaipa has suggested that we do a preview show and a wrap-up show on YouTube for each of the 8 races.
Yeah.
And so a few days before the first race, we'll come on into the studio. We'll talk about in more detail, talk about the course, talk about who might be registered for the race, what the weather report looks like, just kind of a pre-show kind of talk show. And then similarly, a few days after the race, maybe we'll bring a guest or two on and talk to a guest who might have done the race, or talk about how it went down, maybe talk to one of the race directors, and kind of have sort of a season-long series, if you will, of talk shows and hangout shows to again bring more celebration to these events, bring more people into the events, and share a little bit about what they're going to be like. I think it's going to be wonderful.
I think it's also cool that, I love covering Javelina. I love covering Cocodona. I love when we get the opportunity to do Hard Rock, Western States, Run Rabbit Run. We're going to be there next week. But this is our community. This is our area. This is our backyard. And I think that one of the things I'm really looking forward to, as I mentioned, you're welcome to come here from anywhere. And frankly, I think that the logistics of coming to race here in the Valley are pretty strong. If you happen to know somebody who knows somebody, chances are, like, if you fly into town, we could probably get you out to the races. Don't hold me to that. But this is an opportunity for us to not only watch the locals get their shine out on the course, but also give us a reason to chat with some people that we don't normally get to chat with. Like we might be able to talk to some of the local winners, some of the local competitors, and see what their experiences are like here in the Valley, and also how they tie into the community at large. I think that that's a great opportunity.
Yeah.
And in addition to that, these areas being local to us, we're going to have more opportunities to send out media from our own team to capture footage for social media. Hopefully we're going to be doing race recap videos. Hopefully we can provide some of this to you in your recap shows, so you can so we can do some play-by-plays of what you're talking about as it's going on. And also give you a glimpse into like some of these Maricopa regional parks, because people might assume like inner city parks maybe aren't that cool, or like Flat River Pass, but the regional parks in Phoenix are awesome. Like these areas are really cool. They're expansive. A lot of the footage, as we'll be able to see in these live streams, you're not seeing city in the background even. Like you are like layers over, and it feels remote, and the trails are awesome, and it's a cool chance to showcase like what makes Phoenix so awesome for trail running.
Yeah, and I think too, the sub ultra distance, I mean, let's face it, there are some people that are enamored. They love the idea of trail running, maybe transitioning from triathlon or road running. But an ultra might just be a little bit more, biting off a little bit more than you can chew, right? A 25K with proper training, 15 miles, it doesn't run nearly. It could take you twice as long as it might take you to run a half marathon on the roads to run a 25K. The accessibility of these sub ultra distances as compared to even a 50K or 50 miler is a wonderful aspect of it. And, if we can bring that to folks, and chat with somebody after a run, and, someone who let's say someone wins the 25K and they come on in here and we interview them, and they've never even done an ultra before, but 25K, they can handle that. And I would say too, it's bite size as well for us. We can get the media out there.
Yep.
We can cover the race in 3, 4, 5 hours, and we're done. We go home, we'll go on with the rest of our life.
Well, as Bryce mentioned, the idea of being able to get volunteers out to the regional parks here is probably a little bit less daunting than trying to get them up to Silverton, Colorado.
Yeah. Or even, frankly, to some remote place in Cocodona in the middle of the night.
Yeah, well, if you're covering the race at Camp Kipper or something like that, then this is going to be a lot more accessible, both from a digestible standpoint for the runners, but also for those people that are interested in helping and just being a part of it all. So I think that's one of the cool things. And as you mentioned, Bryce, these regional parks all in Maricopa County basically kind of circle the city, as it were. Like the way that you look at them on the map, you can connect the dots, and they basically provide a circle around the Phoenix metro area.
Like a tour of the Valley of the Sun.
Absolutely. With regard to that, somebody had asked me, how much of the Maricopa Trail do they get to experience and all this? The answer to that is a little bit here and there.
Yeah.
Like for instance, Cave Creek Thriller, you actually traverse like 10 plus miles of the Maricopa Trail. Then there are other events where you might only get like a small cut of it, but it's a way to experience some of the 300 plus mile Maricopa Trail in bite-sized portions.
Right. And a lot of the Maricopa Trail, there's the traditional circle route.
Yep.
But it also spiderwebs out and hits a bunch of these trails. So like SanTan has a little outshoot that goes on SanTan Trail. So a lot of like SanTan, even though it's not directly on the Maricopa Loop, you're still experiencing the Maricopa Loop. You'll see the trail signs out there. And it's a cool way to tie it in.
Quick question from Andrew in the chat: is the Damn Good Run Championship for the total top 10, or is it top 10 per age group? We can talk about that here really quick.
Yeah. So right now, I believe it is going to be top 10 overall. Age group is something that we're looking into, if not this year, most likely next year.
There's probably people out there watching, whether they're watching live or the recording, and they're like, okay, well, Cave Creek Thriller's in 5 weeks. How does registration work? I mean, I know since this is enveloping the DRT series or the Dirt series, right? There's a package somebody can get for the fall and the spring DRT series, right?
Yeah, correct. And on the website, they are linked at the top. So you could do it a couple different ways. You can sign up for either the fall season or the spring season, all in one with the series pass. So there's a separate series pass for both the spring and the fall.
Okay.
You could also sign up for any of these races individually.
All
All this is going to be through Ultra sign up or through AravaipaRunning.com, and it'll link you
So
over.
if someone's looking at their schedule and they're like, oh, darn, I can't do that weekend, but I can do these other two, they can go ahead and sign up, right now for Thriller and Frenzy, and they have their 2 fall races.
Yeah, and I'm looking right now, and the way to do it, if you're really interested, is to do the series. You save a ton of money.
Oh yeah,
like a whole lot of
I
money
think
if you do it.
even if you know you're going to miss one, like in, for example, in the
might
spring.
be worth your
Yeah.
while to sign up for the series.
I mean, race day registration, can run up to like maybe $100 or more. But like, for instance, for the fall DRT series, if you register now for the what would be called the Owl series, it looks like it's about. Wait, is it the Owl or is it the Roadrunner? Oh, it's the Owl. It's you're going to have significant savings on that.
That's
so
nice. That's nice.
like
yeah.
that's something to keep in mind. You can also register. Do they still have a full package series for the spring and fall series? I know they used to.
I believe it's one or the other. So
Okay.
you can sign up for the full fall or the full spring.
So what happens if you have a burner out there who, finishes first in the spring series, or finishes first in the fall series, and then finishes first in the spring series? They're technically invited via both series. Does it pass down, and how is that determined?
No, so they're separated. So we're gonna have a champion of the spring or the fall series first, and then a champion of the spring series.
Well, I meant like the top
So-
10 for the Damn Good Run qualifier. Like, as
Oh,
in,
that's
like,
top 10 from each series are being pulled, men and women.
okay. But if somebody like finishes top 10 in a spring and in a fall, like, are they going to pass down, or is it going to be like, rather than having
I would assume that would drop down to the next runner. Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So if your first place person is first in both, then theoretically the 11th place person might be eligible were they to do it.
Yeah. And I would assume they would be in for the fall, and then their spring one, the second, that would drop down.
Got it. Yeah.
Yeah, because we know that every so often there's a runner that just comes in and just crushes the series as a whole. And it's like, okay, well, if they've, won the series in the fall, they win the series in the spring, does that mean that, like, for instance, M11 or F11 is going to get the consideration in that regard? And so that was kind of my next question. So I think we pretty much hammered everything.
Covered it. Yeah.
If people have questions about this that we didn't answer, Bryce, how can they find out more information?
Yeah, so right now it's linked in the description of the video, but there is the website is linked there for the Sonoran Desert Cup. It will be linked on Aravaipa Running shortly in the full events calendar. Right now you can type for it in the search bar and find it, or Google Sonoran Desert Cup and it should pop up. But yeah, stay tuned for more information. I'm sure we'll be sending out information about upcoming live streams when we're talking about the Frenzy.
Yep. Frenzy
Mesquite
and Mesquite
and Damn Good.
And Damn Good. Yep.
Yep. So yeah, keep an eye out for more information. I think we'll be doing more on the social media side, hopefully doing some YouTube video, like race recaps on some of these. Just stay tuned for more content. And then, yeah, cannot wait for the preview and recap show.
That week leading into Thriller, we'll have our first preview show.
Yeah.
And we'll send out information about the schedule for that and all. And of course it'll be recorded and memorialized on our YouTube page as well. So this is awesome.
With that in mind, are either of you going to be registering for the series, or kind of gunning for that that series?
I'm signed up for a couple already.
Oh, I know. I saw that you're registered already for looks like SanTan and Elephant Mountain.
Yeah, and those ones I'm familiar with.
Gunning that spring series already?
Potentially, I'm looking at Cave Creek. Maybe. I mean, I just love all those courses, especially in the fall. I got a 50-mile coming up at Saddles in the beginning of October, so see if the body cooperates and play it year after that, I think.
I'm gonna keep my powder dry until after Javelin.
I think that's fair.
It's my first 100-miler in 3 years, so I don't want to get too ahead of myself. Plus,
One thing at a time.
I've also got Sedona Canyons in May of 25. So, but I do think I'll probably end up going back out to Coldwater. As much of a grind as that was, and the sandy washes, I'm no huge fan of that either. I do kind of like it. I do kind of. There's something about it. It's tough and not all that exciting, but it's fun.
It's pretty too.
Yeah, it's very pretty. Not to mention you get this incredible view of the Phoenix International Speedway.
That's true. Yeah, it is right next to PIR.
It's right next to Phoenix International Raceway, and it's like it appears on the horizon like this.
It's a
massive,
beacon.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's right next to the start finish line area basically. So you know, thankfully there's not a race that weekend because I've heard things get pretty hectic out there. Well, I think that's about it. I think that we covered everything we need to cover, folks. If you have any questions or further information that you're looking for, you can always check it out on the Aravaipa Running website. Check out Sonoran Desert Cup. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you out there on the trails.
All right. Take care, everybody.